Welcome to the Putback presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. We got a great show today. Guest Iman Shumpert, drafted by the Knicks, great career in New York, NBA champion in Cleveland. He's here to break all things down Knicks, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. He's here to talk about his fantastic podcast, Shump Street Pod, which you have to check out. We also get into trade landscape, what the Knicks may be looking at, backup point guard, backup big, Tyler Kolek, strong play. We get into it all. With basketball season in full swing, Fanatics Sportsbook is giving you more ways to score big this holiday season. Every bet earns you up to 10% fan cash, win or lose. So even if a bet doesn't hit, you're still building fan cash you can use for holiday shopping at Fanatics.com, from jerseys to collectibles and more. If you haven't made the switch, now's the time. Fanatics Sportsbook, winning hits different here. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See Fanatics Sportsbook app. Welcome to the Putback here on SNY.TV, presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. We got a great guest with us today, Iman Shumpert, drafted by the Knicks, a great career with New York, then went to Cleveland to win some titles, and now he's doing some media things, and he's doing them very well. First of all, the Shump Street podcast, Iman Shumpert, starting that podcast. You can see his analysis. You can see his opinions there. And that's been a great show so far. Iman, we will get into that. But as always, we start here with the baseline. And the Knicks beating the Spurs to win the NBA Cup. It was a win that was celebrated in Las Vegas by the team and by Mike Brown and the group. Jalen Brunson calling it an important stepping stone for this team. Brunson winning MVP of the NBA Cup. Iman, as a player, what do you think about generally the NBA Cup idea? Are you into it? Or are you not into it? What are your thoughts?
Now, of course, I don't want to take anything away from the New York Knicks for going out there and winning one. And that's all well and good. I think they're playing some incredible basketball. I was encouraged to see the clip of Jalen Brunson saying, no, we're not going to be drinking any champagne. We're not going to be doing too much celebrating, even though we are happy that we got this win under us. I think it was a perfect way to come off as a leader, to say, though we're going to take this as a building piece, we're going to take this as another step toward a great thing. This is not our mission. Our mission is to get that gold ball at the end. So kudos to them for that. But as a player, no, it doesn't mean much to me to have an in-season championship. It doesn't count. There's no playoff series involved in it where there's a war for 7 games. There's just nothing like that. And I can't, as a player, I can't get into the idea of it seeming like college again.
Iman, can you talk to me a little bit about the new podcast? Just what went into it? What was the impetus? And what's the goal with that show?
Well, I'm one of those guys that feels like if you're going to discuss something and you're going to, if I'm going to critique other analysts and say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or that guy should have said this, or he should have focused on that. Why do we care to get the news about what he's doing off the court? Why can't they just focus on basketball? And then, I'm one of those guys that says that for long enough before I say, you know what, I'll do it. I'll make a podcast where, yeah, they're going to bring up stuff. We're going to let it come across our table. We're going to say, honestly, we don't care. As long as you come out here and you score 25 and get us 8 rebounds, we really don't care about nothing off the court unless the cops can care about that. If it's something bad, the cops will get you. Like, that don't have nothing to do with us. You come out here and you play, and that's what we're going to critique. And I wanted to do it that way because as a player, that was something that I was big on. I felt like if you're going to cover basketball, but coming up with a hypothetical and you're not in the locker room, it never really made sense to me. So I try to stay away from those things and just focus on what's actually happening on the court.
So in a sense, are you saying that your Knick career and dealing with the New York media really was the impetus to you going this route. Because we had some fun those times, but I know there were some rough times, man. Because I'll say it myself. We take quotes, we blow them out of proportion. We do
Yeah,
exactly what you said, hypotheticals, and so I could see. I'm just thinking about that as you're describing the show, and just remembering covering you, which was a pleasure, by the way.
appreciate you. I think a lot of it came from New York, but it was also when I played with the Cavaliers. I think with every level of basketball, especially when your team is able to, reach that next round and that next round, the media just grows and grows and grows. I remember the times being around for the Jeremy Lin situation, and that just growing out of proportion to the point where I saw it draining him. And you start looking at these things and start understanding that if you want to talk basketball and you want to keep it basketball, there's a way to do it. There's a way to talk about it and stay on subject of what we're talking about as far as players competing and doing this stuff at a high level. We can talk opinions and off the court stuff all the time, but I really just like the show that keeps it hoop, keeps it competitive. We big up some of the extra stuff. Like we had a great segment about Dylan Brooks and LeBron, and even LeBron's quote after, like to hear them just say, "Hey man, it's just basketball. We got into it on the court. We allowed to hate each other for 48 minutes. We love that brand of basketball, and I just want to keep breathing oxygen into that."
And I want to say too, Shump, as a guy who consumes a lot of media, the way
Mhm.
that you talk about the game and the way that you analyze the game and the way that you can communicate that analysis, I think it is so valuable. If you're an NBA fan, if you're a basketball fan, you want to understand more about what's happening on the floor from a player's perspective. I mean, Iman Shumpert, he just does a great job breaking things down, X's and O's wise, and also has a lot of fun on his Shump Street pod. How many episodes are you doing a month? Like, what's the schedule for the pod?
Right now, we're just doing it once a week. Uh, I like to do just a wrap up. One of my favorite things was used to watch the NBA app and just watch the wrap up show, the NBA TV. They give you the top 10 plays. That whole idea of the wrap up. But I like to just keep it into 4 quarters, so I feel like it's a game still. So the idea is to stay within the structure of 4 quarters, each quarter doing something different. But definitely as much basketball talk as we could do. I think the riffs that you're talking about with the deep dives, those happen usually in the second or third quarter of the show. We just
Mm-hmm.
plays and pick them apart. And I want to kind of shine a light on the players that I've gotten to play with that have helped me to be able to communicate that. I've been able to learn from Carmelo Anthony to start out, you know what I'm saying? But also being able to have Amari Stoudemire grab me and pull me to the side and tell me, hey, this is how it was when I played with this guard. This is how it was when I played with this guard. Like, this how it's got to be with you. I've had Tyson Chandler. I've had Jason Kidd, Baron Davis. You saw that 2012, 2013 Knicks team, and
Mm-hmm.
then play with LeBron, play with James Harden, play with Chris Paul. You start playing with all these guys, play alongside Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love. You play against and then on the same team with these guys, and you start to have these conversations and start to understand that the game has so many different perspectives to it. And as long as you can hone some sort of principle when you're on the court and then show us, the DNA of your game, we can sort of place it and start to see what works and doesn't work on the basketball court. And I think that conversation happens all too much for me off the court now, for me not to share it with the world and say, hey, man, we might as well have a show where we talk about this stuff because we're talking about barbershop stuff all the time anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you bringing it to the camera again. That's the Shump Street Pod. It's at Shump Street Pod on Twitter. Where else can we find that, Shump? Is it YouTube as well? Where do we find the
Yeah.
show?
YouTube, TikTok. You got a TikTok page. All the
Mm-hmm.
social for real. Shump Street Pod though. You got it. You got it on the head.
Yes, definitely. If you're watching this show, go check that out because it is fantastic. And Iman, I wanted to ask you something that you said on your show about Jalen Brunson. They said you were amazed after he dropped 40 on Orlando. You called him a short Carmelo Anthony. And I just want to ask you, like, could you break down for us how does Jalen Brunson at his height and his speed, how does he get to his spots and get the shots off that he wants to get, seemingly night in and night out? What do you see there?
I think that you underestimate his handle, right? I think there was a lot of truth to what Josh Hart was saying about Jalen Brunson. Ironic, y'all put that freeze up, but you. He said he's not the tallest, and then he's not the most athletic, which those two things automatically make you sort of want to run up on him. And his ability to make you have to sit in a stance, he's very patient. He plays really well in small spaces, though he has done a better job this year, I feel like, of playing in space and getting his teammates to understand where to be. I think they're doing an incredible job of spacing the floor. But as I watch him break down every defender, I watch him use dribbles to make you sit into a stance. And every time he hip checks to get by you, he has this threat of stopping on his first step. He doesn't take two steps. He stops on his first step and tosses up a floater. It kind of reminds me of James Harden when I see it. But the threat of him doing that allows him to play that stop go that Isaiah Thomas used to play in Boston, where
Mm-hmm.
that little open closed door kind of move and they just go by you and you're trying to figure out why it freezes you, and it does because he has that ability to stop at any time and flick up that little floater. That he's just shooting it really efficiently. What is he shooting? What, 40-something% from the field, about 38% from the three. So he carries the threat everywhere on the court. It's just been really cool to see him do everything by two. If you watch him throughout the cup, he played by two, and it's just amazing to see him do it efficiently and then not seeming like he's going to run out of gas. I think they've done a great job this offseason of getting in shape because he is moving and it doesn't look like he's slowing down. I think at the end of the games, they're trusting him more. I see now that they're going to do a little bit more pick and pop with that ball screen that I said I didn't like from him and Cat. I know New
Mm-hmm.
York took me for that. I'm so sorry, New York. But I think they have figured out that down the stretch, if they continue to have the spacing that they have and they continue to have guys like Jordan Clarkson could come off the bench and score the ball, they just carry a better threat. I know when Deuce gets back, he also has been shooting the hell out of the ball. They carry a better threat coming off the bench, and I think that at the end of games, they understand Jalen Brunson just might want to just play in an ISO, and we have to be okay with that. I think him and Cat are just going to take turns saying, this is your kill, that's my kill. Whatever we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. And if they can stay confident in that, I don't see anybody stopping them in the East.
Shump Street Pod, his new show, his NBA show. Again, he's going to give you his opinion. He's going to give you X's and O's analysis, and he's going to break the game down just from a player's perspective. And it's fantastic. If you're an NBA fan, if you're a basketball fan, be sure to check that out. And I wanted to ask Iman, because he had a take on his podcast about Giannis Antetokounmpo coming to the Knicks. I wanted to ask him if he was going to if he had that on the table and he was running the Knicks, would he make that kind of trade? Because, right now, Knicks looking very, very good, looking like a group that's together. And you wonder, if you're the front office, how much do you weigh the idea of getting Giannis Antetokounmpo, generational player, obviously puts you over the top in any conversations of the Eastern Conference. But how do you weigh that versus what you're sending out and interrupting the flow of this team right now? So it's a big, obviously, topic of conversation around the league. Iman brought it up. He thought Giannis was going to end up in New York. One thing I wanted to ask you, just as a player, you see how this Knick group is kind of developing or kind of developing cohesion, I want to say, under Mike Brown. It's still early in the season. But I want to ask you, if you're running the Knicks, right? If you're Leon Rose, if you're now, I'm not going to say Phil Jackson. I'll say maybe Steve Mills. if you're running the Knicks and you see how this team is playing right now, and everybody kind of looks like they're developing cohesion, how do you weigh breaking that up? Trading for Giannis Antetokounmpo, obviously, he puts you at another level. But breaking that up, what you're seeing so far on the floor versus, keeping it together and saying, hey, maybe we'll check this out in the offseason. How would you approach that?
Well, if Shump's the GM, we rolling how we rolling. If I
Uh-huh.
would if I went and got these guys, I'm gonna see if my guys can win. Um, I, as a GM, would feel like guys get about 4 to 5 years to figure it out, especially when you have emerging superstars that are coming into their own. You have guys that are figuring out their role and then flourishing. I think that they went and got great pieces in Jordan Clarkson, being able to grab Deuce and feel like his development is soaring right now. Rather than how we've had to see him play with other teams and sort of take a back seat. I feel like he's had a steady role that one, he's worked his ass off for, but they're allowing him to play in that. And when I look at this group, even when I see them off the court, I see them in interviews that they look like they enjoy being around each other. So no, I wouldn't do it. It's just when we're on the show, me and my brother riff sometimes, and sometimes they have hypotheticals come across our desk and we'll answer it. But I don't see a problem with the swap when you look at it on paper as far as what changes for the Knicks. I think they get better if Giannis comes over there, but I know you would have to lose somebody with like Cat, and we were just weighing on that decision. But if it
Hmm.
was up to me, no, I'm going to roll with the guys that we pick. I think that the city loves the guys that they have, and I think that Jalen Brunson is ready as anybody to grab a hold of the reins of New York.
Yeah, and yeah, the Dick fan has fallen in love with this team. And you mentioned Miles McBride. It's funny because just having a chance to cover you as a rookie and beyond, and the way the crowd fell in love with you, Nick
Mhm.
fans fell in love with you. It kind of reminds me of the way they've fallen in love with Miles McBride, just living with every shot, and he just energizing the crowd. It seems like always the drafted Nick that does well, it gets in the rotation. The Nick crowd just falls in love with that player. So I wanted to ask you, I mean, in addition to Deuce, maybe we'll get back to that, but your memories as a Nick. If I said to you, "Hey, what's your best memory, best 1-2 memories as a Nick?" What would you go with?
I say, I mean, obviously the tip dunk. I
Mm,
never heard an arena sound like that. I've never felt an arena shake quite like that. I remember after catching that dunk, thinking in my head, I hope somebody fouls or something happens because I wouldn't be able to shoot a jump shot right now to save my life. Like
mm,
I probably throw it to the crowd. Like I know it wouldn't go in. Oh, and then it'd be in between the double alley oop with Swish and Melo's, what was it, 62?
yeah.
It
Ah,
was
man.
it's between the double alley oop and then the 62 for Melo. I remember the double alley oop. I remember thinking like this is something we would have done if we were kids in the backyard, and I felt like bringing that to the NBA, that it meant a lot to me. That the stuff that you cook up in your backyard that shouldn't make sense in a game. I remember feeling like, wow, that felt really good to bring that to an NBA arena, and for JR of all people to understand, like, hey, I'm throwing this back to you, and then go dunk it. Yeah, I had never felt so in sync with somebody. That's why it was really cool to get traded with JR, because it was just really cool to be in sync with somebody like that. And then
Hmm.
Melo's 62, it was just special, man. It was like at that point I had been a part of so much history. It's just cool to have been alongside those guys for that ride. Even to be in the locker room and see, like, I had never seen so many people so happy for somebody that in a game just lost their mind like that, but nobody else got to get their game on. I don't think anybody else got their average, but nobody cared. Like, it was really cool to see an entire city that happy for one person. And
Yeah,
we come from a team sport, but Melo was like a prize fighter that day.
it was. And is it true? Didn't you guys watch clips of Muhammad Ali before that game? Am I remembering that correctly?
Favorite guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
Melo's. That was like a all the time thing for Melo.
oh, okay. So that
Yeah,
wasn't
Melo.
specific. All
That's
right.
that's his thing. Like, yeah, Muhammad Ali is his guy, man. That's his thing. But yeah, that's a great picture, man. I remember
I love
that
it.
That's after I hit PG elbow. Oh
There he
man.
is. There he
Oh
is.
man, that was right after I hit his elbow. It's so crazy, dog. I just turned my
Wow.
head. I just wanted to make sure that I kept my hand up, but I turned my head and I did touch his elbow. It just didn't have nothing to do with that shot.
No, it didn't. It didn't. And I want to just, if you're younger, you got to be super young. But if you're younger and you're not, you don't know, please go check out. It was game 2 against Indiana at home. I think it was a Chris Copeland miss. Iman Shumpert comes from like 40th Street and just crazy putback, and the building went crazy. So
Yeah.
please look that up, and please look up the double alley oop with Jr. I felt like you guys had great chemistry on the floor. I could tell you guys liked each other off the floor, but even on
Yeah.
the floor, it seemed like you guys were connected.
Yeah, I think JR knew how to we kind of knew how to turn each other up. He knew the style of game I liked it to be, and we kind of knew when to like start jawing at each other so that we wouldn't get technical fouls. We kind of fell in love with that situation where it gave us energy to kind of talk trash, but we talked it to each other about other people. So you can't really get mad at us. We pushing each other. Like, if you ever see me and JR pushing each other, or it looked like we like yelling at each other, sometimes we
Yeah.
just crash to get each other going, but we're usually talking about somebody else on the court. But it's all to stay away from technical fouls. Uh, but yeah, me and JR had just a whole lot of one-on-ones, a whole lot of just watching film. Me, Mello, and JR used to watch film for hours after practice. Mike Woodson used to sit there and watch hours of film with us. We just liked it after the
Mhm.
game, sitting down with him. So it was like on the court. There was times I could get a steal. I could just sort of throw it behind my head, knowing if I get a steal, JR already said the moment he sees me getting a steal, he's gone. Just throw it
Mhm.
to the. He said you might as well just throw. If it's going out of bounds, just throw it to the other side. I promise you, I'm running that way. As soon as I see you get it, like, anybody else, I don't really move that fast. You get a steal, I'm gone. So you'll start to see that dynamic on the court where people will be like, man, him and JR always, and it's like we just kind of know what each other want. Like he know the
Mhm.
three I'm gonna shoot, and the ones that it's like he's gonna turn that down, he's gonna try and dunk that. Like he just used to it, and yeah, that helped me a lot when I got traded to Cleveland because that was hard for me to leave New York. You know what I'm saying? I know I got all my jerseys up here. And oh, that's the Bulls jersey. That never happened. That was a hypothetical jersey from my brother. But yeah,
I
that
like it.
21. It was hard to leave that 21 alone and pick up that 4. But I think it was very instrumental for me to have Jr. alongside of me for my own personal development. I didn't get a chance to, I feel like, develop at whatever position I was supposed to play in the league
Hmm.
because I got to play with so many different teams and had to kind of rechange my role up for everybody. But
Hmm.
as far as my mental and going through my career, like I'm so happy that I got to have a teammate for that long to feel like I was grounded in some way.
Man, as a reporter, I'm a dispassionate observer, but as a human, I was so happy to see you and Jr. Win in Cleveland. I was so happy to see you get your deal in Cleveland, and it was great to see from afar that ended up that way. If it wasn't going to end up in New York, that for it to end up that way was fantastic. And Shump, I know you have to jump. I just have one more for you.
You got it.
Knicks fans are definitely going to want to know your opinion on this.
Hmm.
Let's go to the playoffs. Let's say the Knicks get through the East. Let's say they're healthy, playing at a very high level.
Yep.
Can they beat a team coming out of the West? Like, can they beat an OKC? Does anybody have a shot to beat that OKC team if they're healthy?
I thought that the Knicks would be the better matchup for OKC last year. I
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Knicks match up better than anybody with the OKC Thunder, and that has a lot to do with the way the Thunder play all the way up until the fourth quarter. I think that the Knicks do a similar thing where they play a certain way, and then they are now coming into their own where they understand at the end of this game, we're going to hand this ball to our guy, and he's going to play lucky lefty until the end of the game. If he
I
gives
love
it
it.
to us, we are they are now rolling with a confidence that they don't need the touches throughout the game. They just know and trust that he's going to trust the pass. This is not one of those things where we're seeing Jalen Brunson exhaust and then he throws a pass that just looks unaggressive. All these passes are streamlined passes, and guys know with the energy of the game, like this shot goes up, everybody in the arena knows it's going in. And when the game feels like that, I don't know. I think they have the best argument for the OKC Thunder not repeating, and that's not to take away from the Spurs because the Spurs have a big argument. The way they played them that last game that they got to see them and deliver them their their second loss. I thought that it was a statement game, and it was also a y'all are gonna have to look us in the eye type of game. Like I think we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna see a little bit of a rivalry, and it got kind of chippy. So I'm excited to see that. But I think that the Knicks they have the best argument to take the OKC Thunder away from a repeat title.
Well, you just heard it there, the analysis, the opinion, and it just gets more in depth on the pod. And you're gonna hear everything you want to hear. Honestly, if you're an NBA fan and you want to learn more about the league, about the games that you're watching, so definitely go check out Shump Street Pod. You can find it on any social media platform at Shump Street Pod here on Twitter. Iman, can't thank you enough for joining us, man. Really appreciate it. Good luck with the show. You know we'll be watching.
And I appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
You too, man. Thank you. That was Iman Shumpert, Shump Street Pod. Again, great show, fantastic show. I don't know if you watched that team in 12-13 or if you watched Iman Shumpert play. Just hearing him go back down memory lane was a lot of fun, and hearing his analysis of this year's team. I mean, he's not going to say what he said about the Knicks and the Thunder. If he didn't believe it, he has no reason to say anything he doesn't believe. So for him to be watching these games, which he does, and to have that conclusion, it's interesting. It's fascinating to me. But let's get into the injury updates here. Injury updates, we have a couple here. We got Miles McBride, who missed the entire NBA Cup because of that ankle injury. Knicks saying that he'd be reevaluated in a week, and that was roughly a week ago. So I guess we'll see where he is for Indiana. Knicks playing a back-to-back, going to Indiana after winning in Vegas. I think the Knicks have taken it slow with Miles McBride. Remember, he got that second opinion, second, I assume, MRI after the first one. So that tells you that they were working through some things and trying to figure out just how bad it was. I don't know when he will or won't come back, but the idea that the Knicks said that he's going to be reevaluated around now, it leads you to believe at least that his return is on the horizon. And then you have Landry Shamet, again, supposed to be reevaluated end of December with that shoulder injury. I think he and the Knicks, best case scenario for them when they got the news that it was not any kind of a separation or a bone issue. And so he's dealing with that. By all accounts, rehab going well. If it continues to go apace, he should be back, I think. Maybe not by the end of the month, but pretty soon thereafter, unless things have changed in the last couple of days, which I don't think they have. And then, Karl Anthony Towns, you saw him get hurt a little bit against San Antonio, but he came back in the game. Josh Hart was limping a little bit, but he finished the game, finished it strong. And I didn't hear anything about a Mikal Bridges injury because he obviously wasn't on the floor late in the fourth, midway through the fourth. Mike Brown opting to close with Tyler Kolek, who played fantastic. I don't think there was an injury. I just think Mike Brown rode with what he felt was working there. And Tyler Kolek and Jordan Clarkson and OG Anunoby, I mean, you can't say enough about how strong they played in that Cup final. Kolek especially, just giving the Knicks seemingly exactly what they needed in that time, the extra ball handler on the floor, allowing them to seal that win. And he was fantastic. And now we will get to storylines, which is presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. On Tuesday night, the Knicks defeated the Spurs to become NBA Cup champions. And despite the victory, the Knicks' odds to win the NBA Championship have increased since the start of the season. At the start of the season, the team was plus 900, and now they are plus 1,200 with our partners at Fanatics Sportsbook to win the NBA title. And be sure to check out the Fanatics Sportsbook app for all your NBA future bets all season long. Fanatics Sportsbook, winning hits different here. It's an interesting approach there with the odds makers. Are the Knicks a better or worse team now that they were earlier in the year? Or is it just Oklahoma City, establishing itself as just head and shoulders above everybody? Just from a Knick perspective, I think they're showing you over the last few weeks, particularly with Josh Hart coming in the starting lineup, that they're growing, they're rowing in the right direction, but there's also room to be better. And to me, this is probably the best case scenario that you could have thought of if you were the Knicks coming into this season with a new head coach, dealing with some injuries. I mean, it seems like the way they are playing now and where they are and what they've done so far in terms of wins against some good teams recently. I mean, before the Cup stuff, maybe you could have said they played a soft schedule, which was accurate. But now, San Antonio beating Toronto, beating an Orlando team that had your number earlier in the year. They have some quality wins against quality competition. So I would assume, I'm not an odds maker, but I would assume it's just a product of OKC establishing its dominance in the regular season. But look, Iman Shumpert, if you're watching this now and you didn't hear it, rewind a little bit and go back to what he said about the Knicks and the Thunder. Made some interesting points about that potential matchup. Anyway, that's stuff for way down the line. Certainly not something that's relevant here in mid to late December. What is relevant is your questions. And so we're going to get to some of your questions. The Talkback segment that we know and love with our friend Matt Spendley, the big Spends social media extraordinaire. I think he sneezed. I'm not sure if that was a sneeze. If it was, God bless you.
It wasn't
Matt,
a sneezing. It's just always hectic in the SNY office. I'm doing fantastic, Ian. How you doing?
I'm so happy to see you, man. So happy to
Yes,
see
you as well. Great to hear from Shump too, right? I mean, getting a little
Yeah,
misty-eyed thinking about that Knicks team.
and
It
that
was great to
putback
hear from
dunk,
him.
man.
Yeah, one of my favorites. All right, let's get into a few topics. I want to start
Sure.
off the bat with your reporting, the story that you broke about the Knicks not hanging a banner at MSG after winning the NBA Cup. So let's start there. Why do you think, or let me rephrase, why did they decide to do that? And then I would also like your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think a large part of it was the idea that they're what was said to me was a source that they're focused on bigger goals. They're focused on June, winning then, and they don't want to diminish the title. They respect the title. They're going to celebrate the title on Friday when the Knicks come back home, and they're going to give the fans a chance to celebrate the players. They're proud of the players, but they see it as not something that's their primary focus right now. And at the end of the day, I mean, nobody said this, but it's not worthy of a banner in those rafters. That's the conclusion that they obviously came to. And I'm not a big opinion guy. Certainly don't tell anybody how to think about anything they're seeing on the floor. But I had a pretty strong opinion on this one in terms of it not needing to be up there. The banner did not need to be up there. Look, if you accomplish a division championship, if you accomplish a conference championship over an 82-game season, yes, the banners go up then. I understand that. But this is not that. I think the idea is fantastic. I like the idea of the Cup. I like bringing out competitive play in regular season games in ways maybe you wouldn't see the competitive play at the level that you're seeing it if there was no Cup. I like the idea of the tournament and the money going to players, particularly guys maybe at the end of the rotation, and they're getting a significant payday if they're getting $500,000, $200,000, whatever it is. The banner, I think, is a step too far. So I have to applaud the Knicks here in this decision. I thought it was the right one. I know people see it differently. Matt, how do you see it? What do you think? Was this right call, wrong call? What do you think?
I would have had no issue if they did it. I understand why the previous two winners have done it. I respect the decision as well. Like you said, I like the reasons behind it, that they have bigger goals. I think this is a team that fully expects, to be there in June. That's their expectation. I have no problem either way. I think if you would have asked me, I would have preferred they don't do it because it feels like hallowed ground. It feels special. And it wouldn't feel quite the same having that up there with the banner. So if you were to ask me, wouldn't have done it, but didn't have a big issue either way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is why we love an Ian opinion. Could we hold on to them and we cherish them because when we get them, they're always on point. uh, let's talk about the game a little bit. Let's talk about the MVP of the NBA Cup, Mr. Jalen Brunson. So, Ben Stiller was on the broadcast last night, sent a video in for some analysis. Obviously, Brunson spoke after the game, credited his teammates, but I feel like we just want to have a little check-in about Brunson and his MVP chances. I know Mike Brown's talked about it multiple times. What are your thoughts, Jalen Brunson, MVP candidate?
Yeah, Mike Brown's been banging the drum for at least 3 weeks now. And the way Brunson has been playing in terms of, I want to say before that Spurs game, he was on a crazy run where he was scoring the ball efficiently, and his teammates were getting involved in a healthy way. And so, I think that if that dynamic continues and his numbers continue to be what they are and his teammates continue to thrive, and the Knicks may have the best record in the East or wherever they may end up, top 2 records in the East at the end of it, you have a strong case there, especially because he would have the biggest momentum in the conference. And then you're looking at, Western Conference candidates and maybe in some way, shape, or form, not that the vote would be split with those Western Conference candidates, but the attention out of the East would all be on Jalen Brunson's candidacy. So I think there is a shot there if things continue to go this way. Obviously, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to have a big say in how it goes. Victor Wembanyama going to have a big say. Luka Doncic. I mean, I don't want to say Giannis because the Bucks are not playing well and he's not playing right now. But there's going to be players that emerge. But right now, I don't think you can argue with the idea that the season ended today. Jalen Brunson would have a strong MVP candidacy to make for that award.
Yeah, and I think, to me, a reason why Brown and a lot of people around the Knicks and the fans and the conversation kind of gravitates towards that is because I think sometimes they feel like he doesn't get the same level of respect at that level. And I think that comes down to social media perception sometimes, the way he plays the game, the way he approaches the game, his demeanor and his personality versus some of those other things. So I think that's part of why that goes. Ian, we brought up with the Cup, you had an opinion. You had another opinion on Jalen Brunson that we're going to put up and I'm going to read. This was from last week after the Toronto game. You said, I'll skip the beginning part. Don't take him for granted. Obviously, no player is above criticism game by game. This includes Brunson, but the two-time All-Star has raised the bar higher and higher for himself and his team since coming to New York. Will Brunson's Knicks teams ultimately win an NBA title? We'll find out in due time, but don't take for granted what you're seeing from Brunson as he and the organization pursue that goal. So I circle back around and say, appreciating Jalen Brunson. I just expand on your thoughts on that tweet that you sent out.
Yeah, I think I go back to what was happening before Jalen Brunson and even the season before Jalen Brunson, because it was not a good season. Going back to that and those different iterations, whether it was a Phil Jackson or before that 12-13 team and the season after that 12-13 team, there hasn't been kind of sustained, I don't want to say excellence, but a sustained level of winning here. And no matter how you look at it, Jalen Brunson was the most important impetus in this thing going the way it has gone. I mean, obviously, Julius Randle put the Knicks on his back 2 years before Brunson came here. But when the Knicks traded off Alec Burks, they traded off Nerlens Noel, and they created the money to sign Jalen Brunson, they were criticized for the move, and I was skeptical of it. And this was an all-in move for Leon Rose and his group. And if you look back to them, I mean, it could not have gone better. I mean, maybe only Rick Brunson, Leon Rose, William Wesley could have expected this, and Jalen Brunson could have expected this. But considering where you are as a franchise and considering where you were before he got here, I just think in a big picture sense, it should be noted. And yes, every game, players deserve to be criticized. Brunson is not above that. But just the idea that you're having these conversations about championship expectations and getting to the conference finals, getting through the conference finals, these are conversations, these are sentences that were not uttered before Jalen Brunson got here. So I think it's important to just recognize where he and others, but he being the impetus, has brought you.
Even last night, Ian, wasn't his best game. Wasn't super efficient. I mean, he won the MVP, but it wasn't his best game. But I still catch myself watching him and almost chuckling to myself about the plays he can make. And then he still does things that will surprise you. Like the play in transition yesterday was one of my favorites because you so rarely see him in transition like he did. They noted it on the broadcast. So appreciate Jalen Brunson. That's what Ian and I are saying. I want to talk about his backup last night, Ian, Tyler
Yeah.
Kolek.
Yeah.
14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 and 9 from the floor, hit 2 threes. He's had a bigger role this year. And I think yesterday was kind of the culmination of that. I mean, he's had 12 games this year where he's played in double-digit minutes. He had 13 all of last year. And I know we talked about, Tom Thibodeau and how he viewed Kolek versus how Mike Brown views Kolek. So I'm curious your thoughts on Tyler Kolek and how he played last night.
Yeah, look, last night, and you could include that since Miles McBride has been out, there's been a chance here, a role here for Tyler Kolek, a clear one, and I think he's taken advantage. And last night was not a culmination, but the high point for him so far this year. He was fantastic, and he gave the Knicks everything they needed. Mike Brown sticking with him in the fourth quarter because he wanted an extra ball handler out there. Kolek handling those minutes, handling that stage, and making it look easy. And he was phenomenal. He was very poised, seemed to make all the right passes, make all the right plays. And the interesting thing to me is, the Knicks, obviously, when you talk about trades, backup point guard is an area where I think they'll continue to look at the market. At what point, though, what does Tyler Kolek, can Tyler Kolek get to a point where you don't look at that position anymore? I'm not sure that he can. I don't know that, but I'm not sure that he can. But just the idea that he can play at that stage the way he did against San Antonio, it bodes very well for him in his trajectory. Excuse me.
And Ian, they saw it on the lower third here. So, and you touched on it, so I will expand upon it more. Our Mets 15 is asking, how does Kolek's emergence play a role, if any, in the Knicks trade deadline acquisition plans? Do you see them potentially shifting more to acquire a different position on the roster?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say today, right? Because trade deadline, I don't know how many weeks away, but it's still several weeks away here as we sit in mid-December. Look, if Tyler Kolek gives you that performance nightly between here and February 1st, it seems obvious to me that the Knicks would change their plans and look elsewhere. But I think there's so much basketball to be played between now and then that it's hard to. I don't think today anything would significantly change their plans. However, I do know that in addition to the backup guards, they also are kind of just keeping an eye on the backup big situation in the trade market. So I don't want to say that the sole focus is the backup point guard because I don't think that's the case. I think they have their eye on some bigs, according to people that I've spoke with who've been in touch with the team. And so it's not just backup point guard or bust. And so I think that's important to know when you're talking about Tyler Kolek's play and how it may or may not impact what the Knicks do ahead of the February trade deadline.
Yeah, and like you said, so much basketball still to be played before then. So much can change. I just follow up, Ian, on your bigs point. Any specific names, teams we should be keeping an eye on for the Knicks and targets?
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to say that I don't know what the plans are for Andre Drummond, but just looking at how the Knicks have viewed him in the past, which is favorably, and Knicks, wanting to take a run at him past off seasons. I wonder if that's a guy who they take temperature on and see if he's available. You're looking at Sacramento for everything, and because I think they're wide open. So there's a Precious Achiuwa reunion in the cards. I don't know. I just wonder because of the situation. Also a veteran like Dario Saric. I mean, he's very much a veteran, later stage of his career. But if you're looking for somebody just to play a small role, I wonder if they take a look at Saric and see what it would take to procure him and get him to New York. So those are the few names that I'm keeping an eye on. And obviously with Dallas, I thought maybe Daniel Gafford would be available. I'm not sure. It seems like they're going to not blow things up. It seems like they want to compete. So if that's the case, Gafford won't be available. But that's another name that I am keeping an eye on, would keep an eye on. But if Mitchell Robinson plays the way he's played against the Spurs and really most of the season, any plans for a backup big should not include him at all. I think we're talking mostly about Gershon Yabusele, and if there's a fit there for him on another team, and if that brings back another big.
Ian, let's talk about Mitch. You brought him up. 15 rebounds, 10 offensive rebounds in 18 minutes last night. Just a beast. What are your thoughts on Mitch? I mean, we know what he can bring to the table at this point. I always find myself curious going into a game just because of his skill set. It feels like each game could be a great Mitch game or not a great Mitch game. And obviously his foul trouble is part of it too, but just the caliber of big that they face and facing a guy like Wembanyama, who is such a unique player. But, Mitchell Robinson clearly had a huge impact on the Knicks winning that game with his rebounding. So what do you think of Mitch last night?
I mean, he was doing what he does when he's at his best. I mean, that second half, fourth quarter, and they were down 11 late in the third, and the way he got those extra possessions, particularly in the fourth, getting the ball to Jordan Clarkson on those big shots. And there was a point in the fourth quarter when the Knicks had really taken control of the game. They had 14 more shot attempts than San Antonio in that quarter, and that's directly attributable to Mitchell Robinson and his just the force that he is on the boards, on the offensive glass. And a couple of things here. One is he's extension eligible. They didn't really get close or even, I don't think, talk seriously about an extension before the year. I don't know if that's changed. And then, you look bigger picture, he could be a free agent this summer. So does the way that he's playing, does that force the Knicks' hand to come with a strong offer as an extension? Or do they slow play it? Does Mitch want to hit free agency? So that's kind of the big picture sense. But in the here and now, the more he does this, I think the less likely the Knicks are to do anything big in terms of that big market. Because if they can see this when he's healthy and they see this on a night in, night out basis, you have to have faith. I think the more you see it, now it's a risk. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson has a lot of injuries in his career, but when he has games like he did against San Antonio, and you're seeing that rather consistently, maybe it impacts the calculus a little bit for the Knicks on a big picture perspective with this next contract, but also how they approach things in February.
Yeah, Ian, I want to dig on that just for a sec. Do you think for the Knicks, based on your opinion and then what you know, of course, is there anything he could do this year that would drastically change their outlook on him, and if he's a guy that they decide to extend a contract to? I mean, we know it's his health, right? But do we think there's anything beyond that could really make them sit back and think differently about his future?
I don't know what else he can do, because I think what you're seeing him do is just an extension of what that he's done. And he just, I guess, continues to get better at it and more consistent at it. So I'm not sure. Maybe hit free throws, but I don't think there's anything that would jump off the map where you say, oh, wow, Mitchell Robinson is doing X now. And so that changes everything for us. I think it's just we know who Mitch is. We know what he does. We know what the risk factors are. And I think you either see if you can find common ground on an extension, which, again, wasn't the case coming into the season, or this is what happened last free agency, you have him check out the market and you give him a generous offer and he comes back here. Maybe that's the way that you play it. But yeah, it's just a fascinating dynamic as far as big picture Knicks. Mitchell Robinson, his next deal. Miles McBride, his next deal. Knicks, second apron, high payroll. How do you approach that if you're the front office?
And that's why a guy like Kolek playing well also is such a big deal, and a bigger deal to a team like the Knicks. Also for Mitch, I think the free throw ship has sailed. I'm not sure he's going to be able to hit free throws, but I don't know.
It's so strange because he was in high school, you talk to people around him, and he had a great shot, great touch. Sure. And I don't know what happened or hasn't happened, but you would think based on his high school tape, he could knock free throws down. It's a mystery.
And you remember too, Ian, there used to be Mitch videos in the summer of him hitting jump shots, playing pickup, and it would be, him from three, him taking 20-foot jump shots. And then in the NBA, I think he's taken about 5, and I think 4 of them are air balls. But, he's good. He has his skill set, and we know what he is at this point. Ian, there's just a couple names before we move off the deadline stuff that I want to circle back on, and that's Jose Alvarado and Dennis Schroder. Anything new that we should keep an eye on there with those two guards?
No, I still think kind of what we said last week, which was if New Orleans decides to make Alvarado available, New York will be right there. They will be among the teams with interest. how do you make a deal work? It's not that complex because of Alvarado's salary. I believe it's under $5 million. So from that perspective, not super complex. And so yeah, there will be interest there if New Orleans makes him available. And I think that's just kind of where it sits right now. And based on just everything that you've heard and everything that's kind of going on, would not be surprised at all if the Knicks were very aggressive if and when Alvarado becomes available. And then Schroder, I think he'd be on the list for any team that's looking at the guard position, backup guard position, just because he's so skilled. And he gave the Knicks a hard time in that Detroit series, for some of that Detroit series. And so, yeah, I think any team, Knicks included, that were looking at that guard off the bench, you're going to take a look at Sacramento. You're going to take a look at Schroder. I would assume the Kings would want a significant amount for him. And then salary matching is something that you have to get through because his salary is obviously bigger than Alvarado's. But I think both of those guys, if things continue apace here for the Knicks and for their respective teams, they're going to be the guys that the Knicks are calling about as you get closer to February.
And great to know some names so we can keep an eye on it and kind of hone in on what we should be focused on. All right, Ian, I want to zoom out and take a big picture look. Our guy DPL4563 says, Ian, how do you think the Knicks winning the Cup impacts Leon Rose's decisions on the team, any news on Giannis, that sort of thing? So what I want to talk about is you've reported that the Knicks want to give this team as much of a runway and a shot as possible, right? See what they have in this team. And I think a big takeaway from a Knicks fan or the community after that game is, do we want to mess with this? They've played great. Mike Brown has clearly done a great job maximizing the roster. So I'd be curious for you, as someone, again, that's reported that the Knicks want to see what this team has coming off the heels of winning the Cup. What are your thoughts on the roster is currently constructed and if they want to give this team a shot? We know that.
Yeah, I mean, logic tells you, and this was it was a couple weeks ago at this point when that, just checking around on that was the reaction. And this was when the Knicks were, they hadn't really hit a stride yet the way they've hit a stride more recently. So logic says that, if they liked what they saw then and they wanted to continue to see how things look then, that only reinforces that view, the way that they've played so far. And I mean, it's a risk, right? No matter what you do. If you don't trade for Giannis when you could, or you trade for him and you bet on the chemistry not being really impacted, it's a risk. But I think certainly as we sit here today, Knicks not in a rush to make a huge deal. I mean, the Alvarados and the Schroders, they are significant trades, but they're not a Giannis level trade. I don't think they're in a rush to make a trade that significantly changes everything about their roster, and that's what a Giannis trade would be. Now, look, if they kind of scuffle in January, maybe the conversation's different. If Giannis, through back channel, says, I want to be in New York, I'm going to force my way to New York, and then the Knicks are plateauing, maybe the conversation is different. But as we sit here today, what day is it? December 17th? Yeah, 17th. I mean, you would have to, logic tells you that the Knicks like what they've seen so far and want to see where this thing continues to go.
And obviously, this is the high watermark now. Like you said, there's so much season left to play out. And I also think one thing with basketball too, compared to other sports, the chemistry and camaraderie with the team and feeling each other out is I just think it's a longer runway than other sports, and teams need more time to gel. We talked a lot in this space about Mikal Bridges looking more comfortable. Obviously, I know he didn't close the game last night, but I think you see it with those guys. I want to talk quickly about Mike Brown too. I thought last night was, sort of a moment in his coaching tenure, given how the Knicks closed. You saw Brunson, Kolek, Clarkson lineups. Those guys have played rarely any minutes together. They played less than 10 minutes together before that this season. He closes with Mikal Bridges on the bench, a guy that's out there all the time. So Mike Brown going into that game, making adjustments, playing a lineup that we haven't really seen in, what was a big game. What are your thoughts on how he approached that game and the job he's done so far?
I mean, look, push the right buttons against San Antonio, right? It's that simple. And it's funny, I think he went to that lineup, Matt, as you mentioned, maybe for 10 minutes, but not much at all when you're talking about Kolek, Clarkson, and Brunson. Remember, a couple of fans, I really respect their basketball opinion. They're like, I don't ever need to see this again. I don't want to see the three on the floor again. And yet you go to it against a tough team with a lot of great guards, and it works. And listen, it's fickle, right? Because if, let's say, there was a turn, Clarkson turned it over, Kolek turned it over, Spurs got going, then we're sitting here today and it's a totally different discussion. But credit Mike Brown for going with that combination initially and having the feel to continue to go with it, because you had Josh Hart on the bench for a portion of the fourth quarter when he's normally out there. Obviously, same goes for Mikal Bridges. Brown having conviction with that lineup, going with it, and the results speak for themselves. So you give the coach a lot of credit for, I think, how it played out late in that game against San Antonio. But you know how this town is. It's a fickle fan base, and I say that with respect, because the microscope is always there. So Mike Brown in Indiana tonight, or where are we, Wednesday, if he makes the wrong decision and the Knicks lose a winnable game in Indiana, conversation could be different about Mike Brown. But certainly coming off that Spurs game, you can't argue with the decisions that he made down the stretch of that game. I want to say just one thing, Matt. I want to credit, I think it was James Ham out in Sacramento, who had earlier noted Knicks would have interest on Schroder. So I want to give credit there where credit is due. I think he was on that. And I think that is true. They will have interest there if and when Sacramento says, hey, let's talk. Sorry, so go ahead.
No, all good. Good shout to him. And just to put a cap on Brown, I think the lineup they were able to close with, the decisions that he's made. And I also thought Ian, Karl Anthony Towns, dealing with, he was a little banged up, and, finding the right places to deploy. Mitchell Robinson, Cat obviously coming back into the game. I was keeping a close eye on all that. All right. The NBA Cup in general. I'm just curious your thoughts on how it all played out, what you thought. Obviously, we were, locked in on it from start to finish, given how far the Knicks went. But what are your thoughts on the tournament as a whole?
Look, I think anytime you have something that produces competitive regular season basketball, produces something that guys care about and will compete for in this long NBA regular season, which has gotten, and deservedly so in some instances, a lot of criticism about the care factor over the course of 6 months. Anytime you find something to prod that and to increase the level of competition, you found something that, in my mind, is worthwhile. So hats off to the NBA for that. I love the money aspect, where guys seem to be motivated. The big contract guys seem to be very motivated by the idea that they can go ahead and help out the guys at the end of the bench who are maybe not making a ton of money, and they can maybe double their salary or give them a significant payday. I like that a lot. You can tell that the players are into it. I think that's fascinating. I would say that two-way players deserve that share. I don't think they can get that share right now, which is unfortunate, but they deserve that share. So I think those are all good things. I'm glad the Knicks decided not to put a banner up, because I think that's a step too far. I'm an old man, I guess. I'm a traditionalist. I don't see it as necessary. I'm glad that they're not doing it. I know a lot of people feel differently, and that's fine. But I think that overall, you have something here where players care, and that's a win to me in and of itself.
Ian, I think people do agree with you for the most part. I know you put out a poll, and I think that there were plenty of people that agree with you. We got the poll up here that people can see it. You got no and absolutely not made up, 45%, nearly half of the poll. So I think you got more people on your side than you think.
I forgot about that. I forgot about the no and absolutely not. So I was reading it differently. But
there you go.
We break it down. Yeah, thank you.
There you go. I got you. All right, let's look ahead as our final step. The Knicks will, as you mentioned, on Thursday travel to Indiana to play the Pacers. Then they will play the Sixers on Friday in a back-to-back, and then they have the Heat on Sunday. So just looking ahead to the weekend, what's coming up next for the Knicks now that the NBA Cup's in the rearview mirror? What do you have your eye on?
Yeah, I'm just saying, fortunately for the Knicks, not a back-to-back Friday against Philly, right? Because they have the Pacers. Am I wrong? Pacers tonight?
Pacers tomorrow night, and Pacers Thursday, and Sixers Friday. Yep.
My apologies. Somebody threw me off on that one. So look, you have Minnesota, a Cleveland team that's struggling, a Miami team that you've faced already here a couple of times. To me, I think regardless of opponent, you're just looking at, does the offense continue to not evolve so much, but continue to grow from an efficiency standpoint is the dynamic where Jalen Brunson can get his efficiently in a way that leads to a win, while also an OG Anunoby or a Karl Towns or Miles McBride are getting shots and putting up points. Does that dynamic continue? So to me, it's less about the opponent and more so about the process here at this point of the year. Knicks number two, I think, in the NBA in offensive efficiency at this point. Does that continue? And obviously defensively, I think that's always going to be a concern. I don't think anything really could change drastically there. So that's going to kind of sit where it has sat for the last year and a half. But can the offense, continue to grow the way it's gone recently? And then when do you get Deuce McBride back? When do you get Landry Shamet back? And how does that impact the rotation?
Yeah, keep an eye on the same. I think your last point is what I was going to say too, is once, McBride and Shamet come back, I think we've talked about this previously as sometimes injuries have occurred, but does a guy like Kolek gain more confidence because he was able to get a bigger role? And then you kind of feel like you can go even deeper than you previously could, which we know Brown is not afraid to dip into. But Ian, that's what I got.
Mr. Spendley, always appreciate you. Always appreciate the Talkback segment. Definitely look forward to talking to you again very soon. This will do it for us. So thank you very much for everybody for tuning in to this episode of the Putback presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. We'll be back with another episode next week. We'll get into trade chatter. We'll get into what's happened on the court, and we'll get into all of it, Knicks and the NBA. So be sure to join us then, and we look forward to seeing you.